Obviously, quick turnaround here for a Michigan team that's playing very well. Had a really good neutral win the other day, and they've had a really good season. Been really impressed watching them on tape. Obviously, they've taken some lumps, as everybody has in league play, but veteran group. Got a lot of respect for Juwan and the job he and his staff are doing. You know, it's sometimes a catch-22 when you have a veteran group. They've got a veteran group that have won a lot of games, obviously. You know, a point and a 5 that have I think went to back-to-back Sweet 16s and won a lot of games. But I thought the transition seems pretty seamless, and a lot of credit to Juwan and the coaching staff. And it'll be a great challenge up there.
Chris, it's kind of a weird thing with your defense, where the Big Ten as a conference is not particularly great three-point shooting conference. Yet everyone seems to shoot well against you guys.
Yeah.
I know that percentage isn't necessarily a reflection of how well you defended for you all the time, but how much of that do you attribute to like randomness and bad luck, and how much do you attribute to things you guys could do better?
I think it's definitely a combination of both, but I would err more on the side of we just have to figure out ways to contest and challenge better. I do think some guys have made some timely threes that maybe have not shot it well against other teams, but sooner or later, right, you got to look inward, and we got to figure a way to contest and challenge better than what we're doing right now, and to be more in tune to our assignments on that end. Some of it is we're a little bit smaller. We've been a little bit smaller on the perimeter. I think that's partly a factor. We played a little bit smaller on the perimeter, but yeah, that's a number we've got to continue to address.
And then I believe it was the Minnesota game we played here. You're marking how well Caleb played ball screen defense. I'm wondering, as a team, how you feel about that. You're going to see a lot of it.
Yeah, we're going to see a ton of it. You got like a guy like Xavier Simpson, who has a lot of great attributes, but I think his greatest attribute is his brain. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. His ability to read and process information like a quarterback, and read things so quickly is really phenomenal. It's been our ball screen defense going to get tested at a really high level. You're right, because it's a big part of what they do. And I think it's been good, but it's got to continue to get better. You know, it's been good at times. It's got to, just like in general, our defense has got to continue to get better. You know, I think, you know, you look across the board right now, and our offensive efficiency, our offensive numbers are number 2 in the league. Some of that might be skewed by a really big game or two offensively, but still, offensively we've been pretty good. Our defensive numbers have got to get better, and then offensively, if we can turn it over less, that'll even help even more.
You mentioned the offensive numbers. Ball movement seemed to be about where you wanted it in the game the other day. If you take the result aside, how much does that look like what you ideally want, and then how much does that build on an already?
Yeah, it's been good. I think it was really good against Northwestern too. Really good. I thought it's been really good for a couple weeks now. Some of that though is more of a byproduct of how they play. They commit 2 to the ball. They being Indiana committed 2 to the ball. So if you could make the right read, they were going to be in rotation. We had good movement off the ball, and the ball really popped. It was a really clean game offensively for us overall. Hopefully that'll continue. Sometimes we've even shared it. Probably been a little bit too unselfish at times, but hopefully that'll continue.
2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, like you and Michigan were both top 10 teams in the country. Obviously, like it's early in the season. I know you make this the rankings. You're not really that concerned about that point, but like, since then, you guys both kind of have on these parallel journeys, having a struggle in January. Now here we are on Tuesday. You guys are gonna play them. I guess when you look at the Big Ten landscape as a whole, does that just seem like that's been the story of the conference, where like teams have had these huge highs, but also these very low floors?
Yeah, when you're in the best league in the country, I think that's going to happen. It's going to happen to you, and I don't think you make too much of it. Or your biggest concern really is how you're playing. So even if you're winning and you didn't play particularly well, that can bother you. Or if you lost, but you felt like you played pretty well. I'm not saying results don't matter, because certainly they do, but it's just when you're in a league this deep and this good, it's going to happen. And no one's taken away Michigan's early season wins over Gonzaga and Creighton, the other teams, they North Carolina, and when North Carolina was fully, they did that, So, that's you play a whole season. It's not just a snippet of two weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And while they may have struggled a little bit, as we have, they're a good team. They're gonna have a good finish to the year.
So when you're in it, I don't want to say like, obviously you want to win games, but when you're in that, that low point, and you look around and you see like, we're not the only people who are going through this. Team X maybe went through it in November and so and so on. Like, does it, kind of ease the blow a little bit?
It's hard to say that about any time you lose a game. I think it brings perspective and reality to it. I remember a couple years ago looking at the ACC when they had a couple years where they were like in the old Big East, where you had like, oh my gosh, it was night in, night out. And you had teams that you knew were really, or they were good teams, but just really struggling. And there is some perspective required in it, but it doesn't feel any better.
You downplayed it Saturday about the quick adjustment that you made. Said it wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe you didn't want to admit it in hindsight. I'm wondering if you feel better about your players knowing how they want to play going into this game than you might have Saturday, feeling about how they were going to play, even though you don't have much of a time to turn this around.
Yeah. I'm interested to see, how all that's going to play out with guys getting more minutes, roles being changed a little bit with DJ out. I'm assuming that's why you're asking that, right? So I'm interested to see how we kind of grow and move, depending on what that time frame looks like. Because obviously he impacted a lot of things for us when he was practicing and playing, and no question impacted us in a real positive way. So now that different guys are in different roles, I think that'll evolve a little bit. As you mentioned, it's been a quick turnaround. We weren't able to do a whole lot yesterday. Today will be important, but I think that'll be kind of a pretty fluid thing.
How different are they with Juwan Howard than they were with John Beadle?
They are similar in a lot of ways in terms of, I think it's really obviously smart on their part, because they realize how good their 1 and their 5 are in ball screen situations. And they recruited really well for a number of years, so they've had great depth. Obviously Livers has been out, but they've had great depth. So there's some definite similarities in how they're trying to attack you. And just like last year, they don't turn it over. Xavier Simpson does not turn the ball over. So there's some real similarities there.
I looked at the Rutgers game. 4 of their guys who started played 38 minutes and Tesson played 28 minutes. A tribute to those guys who played those many minutes, but is that something you guys can take advantage of if they're not going to be more than 5 or 6 deep in this game? Is that an advantage that you guys can really take advantage of?
We'll see. I think sometimes that can work in your favor as well. Guys know they're playing kind of regardless of the situation. Sometimes I think guys have said depth is overrated when it comes to games. It's probably underrated when it comes to practice. But we'll see. I think we'll see how that plays out. We had some guys play high minutes too, not quite that high minutes though.
It seemed like about 9 minutes to go in the game, Andre got maybe clubbed in the head or something, and the officials stopped the game and sent him out. Justin Arns came in, kind of unplanned, and the next 2 minutes or so, he had 3 3-pointers and kind of changed the whole texture of the game. It was no longer a 19-point lead with 6 minutes to go. intents and purposes, it was over.
Yep.
Just, is he carving out more of a niche? It seemed like he got the game as an emergency situation and made the most of that situation. Is that what you're looking for out of him?
Yeah, he did. I think he is carving out. I think consistent play, attention to detail. You're right, that was a critical stretch because it went from whatever it was, 7 or 8 to kind of not completely out of reach, but gave us some real breathing room. So it was a critical stretch, those 3 threes. One was off transition, one was out of a timeout where guys did a great job executing. Another one was just a catch and shoot, all in a matter of about 3 minutes. So, yeah, that was a critical stretch for us, and I think we're going to continue to need to see that, especially now with one less perimeter. It's going to provide some more opportunities for him.
A lot of what CJ said, or Steven said in his first question, when you have a guy like CJ who's really your only true point guard on the roster right now, you're at the point where you're getting into February and it's tough, and you're in the middle of the Big Ten season. How do you keep the stamina level up to where you're going to need it to be?
Yeah. Stamina and foul trouble are the 2 major concerns, both with him and with kind of our rotation of 1s and 2s, which would be Luther and Dwayne and him. Yeah, that's a concern. Danny Hummer's going to have to stay ready. We're going to have to be mindful of practice time as well with those guys. Might have to slide somebody down a position, so to speak, whether that's Dre or Justin a little bit. We're going to have to look at some things there with that situation.
And to that aspect of the game, I think DJ does pretty well is getting on the fast break and then getting to the line.
Yes.
When you don't have him in those areas, how do you sort of compensate for that? Because as a coach, you got to say, like, we got to get to the line, we got to get out and break. At the same time, like, he did those pretty well.
He did. So we're starting to do him better and better. Easy scores, whether it was he was I believe 2nd on our team in free throw rate next to Caleb. That strength doesn't really lie in other people. So we're going to have to try to do some other things or find other ways to be successful, because I don't know that you can force that with certain guys that it doesn't play to their strength.
With Andre, have you had a player that's bled as much in a game as he has?
Bled?
Yeah, I feel like that he's taken a shot every other game. And
He
he's getting
has.
taped up. And
Him and Kyle bled a lot. We had a lot of bleeding going on in the game. Over the floor, bench. Kyle got popped twice. Both those guys seem to get hit a lot, and some of it is a lot of it is they just put themselves in harm's way. But it's he's had a go of it for sure. He's had a go of it.
do you have to caution those guys at all? I mean, they're obviously as important to you as they are, and it's part of how they play. They're physical. They're going to get in those types of situations. But do you have to caution them at all? Like, hey, maybe try not to take one in the mouth this time. Or can you?
Yeah, you take away some of their instincts and some of their aggressiveness when you do that with them. To be honest with Kyle right now, and I don't mind sharing this. We're aware of his workload right now because of his leg injury last year, and just not. That's I didn't share this, but on Thursday of last week we had. We weren't really able to finish practice because we were trying to hold him out. Dre had the flu, and we had a guy throw out his shoulder. I think this time of year you're trying to be mindful of all those things, particularly when you're a little bit shorthanded.
And when it comes to that physicality, you spoke about how Caleb handled the physicality at Indiana, threw at him the other day very well. How does he have to approach a game like Teske, where he's going to be going up against that kind of size?
Elite. Teske's an elite post defender and ball screen defender. Elite. So Caleb's going to need to understand that. He can't get frustrated. He's going to have to understand that, hey, he's going against a guy with great size, physicality. He's going to have to be efficient. I thought at times last year, he got up there last year, he got frustrated. I believe this is our third straight game with them when we're playing in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
He's going to have to resist the frustration because there's going to be times where he's just going to get defended really well by that kid.
I don't remember, was it last year or the year before he got in a little Caleb was involved in
Yeah.
a scrum. Have you addressed that with him? Do you?
We probably will talk about it before the game. Yeah, we'll probably talk about it between now and the game. I've not addressed it with them yet. I can't remember what year that was either.
In this conference, I guess it was last year, in this conference, that tends to make you tough enough playing on the road. Would you agree it tends to make you a target of fans that they have long memories and things like that?
That little skirmish, you know, I think in this game, really in any Big Ten game, but certainly in this game, I don't know that any fan base needs anything extra. I think they're gonna feel the way they're gonna feel, and we expect it.
What can you tell us about Luther's shoulder? He obviously had the brace on Saturday.
Yeah, he just threw it out. You guys remember last year he had that. Fortunately, our trainer Brad was able to put it back in pretty quickly. He was out Thursday and no contact on Friday. No real pain on Saturday, but it's something we've got to monitor. You know, even more so. You know, as a coach, you're probably, if you're at full strength, you're probably like, hey, listen, you know, let's not give up practice time here. But now we have to pump the brakes on that a little bit.
How do you feel about the rule the Big Ten has proposed that players in basketball, football, the other sports would get a one-time free, you know, no waiver needed transfer, immediately eligible somewhere? And can you take a long view? I think it could have a dramatic impact on college basketball. There are a lot of transfers now,
Yeah.
but I submit, I guess, for your agreement or disagreement, that a lot of times that year or that unlikelihood of getting a waiver keeps kids someplace where they're frustrated and may not see an immediate different alternative somewhere else.
Yeah, I do too. There's definitely a benefit in that year. I think that's why it was put in place originally for a lot of reasons. I think it benefits the guy who transfers and has to sit out and can get himself academically ready to go, and it does benefit maybe a young man who is reluctant to do that and then ends up pushing through and fighting through and end up being finishes with a great experience. There's been plenty of those stories that maybe don't get talked about. I just think the reality is that this is where it's headed. It's inevitable. I don't know that there's anything that any of us can do to resist it. And I see value in the one-time transfer exception. I do. There used to be when I played a kind of a stigma around transfers. You know, I think that's long since been. People should not think of that. It's not. In a lot of ways, it's not a reflection on the kid. In a lot of ways, it's not a reflection on the program. I suppose if you have 6 every year, maybe. But the reality is this is just what happens in college basketball. I've said that ever since I've been here. And in some cases, you know, I've been fortunate. I've had very few, mass transfers as a head coach. But in some cases, it's best for both individual and program. But they've always had our support. It's the reality of the day we're in, and I've long since accepted it.
Will it change anything about how you recruit, or will it change anything about what you tell kids when you recruit them?
It has already. 5, 6, 7 years ago, once we started to see maybe the numbers increase, it's changed what we've said and how we've recruited. We've certainly recruited more actively, transfers, 5th-year transfers, whatever the case may be. So it has changed.
Chris, there seems to be a little bit of uncertainty about whether or not Livers will actually play tomorrow night.
Okay.
I guess it's like day to day with them. I'm not sure what. It seems obviously very important to have both ends of the floor. I'm just wondering if it makes it any more difficult preparing for them. If there's any major difference with them out or with them in.
Yeah, he impacts them a lot. He was having a great year. He impacts them in a lot of ways with his scoring and his understanding of how they want to play. So, that does create some uncertainty. But we'll plan as if I think in these situations you always plan as if he's going to play. You prepare as if he's going to play, and then when you get the word he's not, then you're prepared.
Just talking about replacing or trying to make up for some of the playmaking that DJ
think he had 3 and 2, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, I think. But your point is a good one. His assist, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it was 3 and 2.
It was 4-6. I don't know about the term.
Okay. It was Indiana? 3 and 2. Check that.
It says 4 and Ken Palm says 4 and 3.
4 and 3? Is that what you said? 4 and 3? Okay. All right. We'll trust that side. Okay. Yeah. His assists and his overall efficiency. I just said this to the team yesterday, which obviously includes assist turnover ratio, has really grown. Like it's a credit to him. He's really taken a step forward. I think his defense has been solid this year, but not quite as good as I want him to finish. I think he can be better consistently in that area. Some of it is he's playing more on the perimeter. But I think efficiency, you look at his numbers, really good. It's a credit to him. The game's slowing down. He's making better decisions. He's not being quite as turnover prone, and he's also obviously really shot it well, and for the most part stayed aggressive. I think he's really taken that next step that you hope a senior takes in terms of overall being a really good player. You look at his numbers; they're really good for a guy who's kind of a perimeter / forward.
And this might be kind of obvious, but with some of the last ones we had offensively, just how important is that to have that senior who can shoot the 3 and facilitate?
Yeah, he's helped us in some of those for sure. He's helped us. I think everybody has some of those, but he's helped us in some of those. It's not like, I think there are times where Andre is going to score 18, 20, and then there's other times where he's going to be, he's going to get 8 or 9. That's kind of who he's always been as a player. And there's a lot of really good players you can say that about, and he's just got to keep growing.
Do you ever notice the announcers in game, in an arena, whether you hear them yelling things out or saying, do you, as a coach, does that ever filter into what you're hearing through a game?
The PA or the guy?
Yeah, whether it's here or on the road.
No, I can't say I ever pay attention to that. Why?
I just wondered, the announcer here has a very different approach than the announcer at Michigan.
Oh.
And I just wondered if that's the type of thing that coaches and players pick up on. CJ said he doesn't hear it. And
No, I like our guy here better though.